District Court, Defendant, Lobby. Which one did we get? Number 3. The one thing we found out yesterday is that Soren was there at the crime scene. And we hope I can get some testimony from him that'll get to the heart of the matter. Mr. Wright? Good morning, Ellen. Look, I'm afraid you might not like the result of today's trial. Well, I mean, probably either way, she's not going to be happy. Nevertheless... Tell me you're still thinking of going that route? Soren is innocent. He can't be found guilty. Take me instead. Ellen, please, try and get a hold of yourself. There we go. I believe in Soren with all my heart. So how dare you doubt him? Regardless of which one of them is found guilty today, it's going to be devastating for Ellen, isn't it? We'll just have to do everything we can. That's the best we can do, you know? The trial is about to begin, Mr. Wright. Alright, let's go, Maya. Yeah. We got this. Day 2. Assuming this is going to be a 3-dayer because it's DLC. Court is back in session for the trial of Ellen Wyatt. The defense is ready, Your Honor.
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
Let's see now, where were we?
In yesterday's session, we found out about the Sprocket family's conspiracy to cover up the murder of Miss Gloomsbury with a second reception. Taking advantage of our collective shock, the defense, as usual, made an nonsensical claim. Namely, that there was a third person present who struck the victim.
Objection!
Hey, don't try to make it sound like I made it all up. The defendant herself made a statement about the existence of a third person, and further investigation has only proven her statement to be true. Then I presume the defense intends to focus on proving the identity of this third person? Is that alright with you, Mr. Edgeworth?
Indeed, Your Honor. In fact, I predict that the defense will most likely attempt to name Mr. Soren Sprocket as the true culprit.
How did you...
The driver during the accident that killed Mr. Sprocket's sister was the victim. Therefore, Mr. Sprocket had a motive to murder Mr. Gloomsbury. That's what you plan to assert, is it not, Mr. Wright?
Am I that transparent?
Come now, Mr. Wright. Did you really think the police wouldn't uncover this information?
Congrats on getting it in one, Mr. Edgeworth. But... Got it. You're wrong. Soren didn't do it. He's innocent. Miss Wyatt, please. He's innocent, I tell you.
What is this, Mr. Wright? I thought your claim about the existence of a third person came from the defendant.
It did. This is just a minor hiccup. Did you not discuss your strategy for today with the defendant, Mr. Wright? Starting off on the wrong foot again is seriously cutting into my lifespan.
It appears that the defense is in disarray. Therefore, the best way to clear things up is to ask Mr. Sprocket himself what happened. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Soren Sprocket to the stand.
What? Why would he do that? Very well, bailiff, please bring Mr. Sprocket to the witness stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Please tell me he's going to do this whole thing with paper airplanes. Perfect. Ow! There's something written on this paper airplane. Let's see, Soren Sprocket, Managing Director of Sprocket Aviation. Mr. Sprocket, please give your answer in words, not paper airplanes.
Now then, Mr. Sprocket. Please tell that doubting lawyer that what really happened at the time of the crime. Well, Mr. Sprocket. Mr. Sprocket.
Alright. You want me to talk about what happened when the crime occurred? In other words, after the first wedding reception, when Ellen and I were in the reception hall, right? Not even the power of the court can stop him from marching to the beat of his own drum. What Soren remembers. I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall and I collapsed to the floor. The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas on the Vista deck. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed to the Vista deck. But when I got there, Dumas was already... I don't want to believe it, but it must have been Ellen. Nothing else makes sense. Well, wait just a minute here. You actually think Miss Wyatt killed the victim? Right? Dumas was killed by Ellen. This is unbelievable. How can you suspect your bride, the woman you love?
Objection!
The truth can be cruel. Miss Wyatt, you must be very upset. Is there anything you wish to say?
No, I cannot believe this. Soren, I thought that at least you would believe in me.
The best way now to show your love for your groom is to admit your guilt and try to atone.
Hold it!
Mr. Edgeworth, I haven't even cross-examined the witness yet. And quit picking on the clearly distraught. Yeah, that's not cool, Mr. Edgeworth.
A court is where we seek the truth, and the truth is unyielding even to the truly pitiful.
Mr. Edgeworth, I find it distasteful to make a lady cry.
It too, Your Honor.
So what are you going to do, Nick? The third person Ellen saw on the Vista deck was Soren. Then we have to prove Soren was there at the time of the murder. I don't see any obvious inconsistencies in his testimony, but we have to push forward.
Hold it!
Okay. Please tell me everything you can about when you got stabbed. After the reception, Ellen and I were enjoying a moment alone in the reception hall. Then Dumas appeared and stabbed me. He grabbed Ellen and the timekeeper and left the reception hall. Did Mr. Gloomsbury say anything at that time? I don't remember. After I stabbed, I was immobilized by the pain. I see.
Hold it!
The Vista deck, huh? But it was nighttime then. Could you really see them in the darkness? One was out so I could see them clearly. From the looks of it, Dumas was trying to push Ellen and the timekeeper off the side.
So you saw the defendant about to be thrown off the airship, you say?
That's right.
In such a desperate situation, it would only be natural for her to fight for her life. And the murder weapon was right there within her grasp.
This isn't going well at all. I've got to do something fast. I have evidence. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck. I understand that your bride was in danger, but were you really able to move with a stab wound to the gut? I was desperately trying to push the pain out of my mind. I see, so adrenaline kicked in and gave you strength. Is that right? I don't see much of anything in this statement I can refute. That's right. I almost passed out several times as I made my way to the Vista deck.
Hold it!
Are you absolutely sure, Mr. Sprocket, that by the time you got to the Vista deck, the murder had already been committed? Yes. But the Vista deck is just on the other side of the glass windows in the reception hall. Shouldn't you have been able to get there right away?
Objection!
Mr. Wright, have you investigated nothing? The only way to the Vista deck is to go to the hold and take the lift.
That's weird.
No matter how much one hurries, it would take at least 10 minutes.
That's unhelpful. But Soren had to have gotten there before the murder, or my claim won't stand. Do you have any ideas for me, Maya? It's definitely easier to prove that someone did go to the hold than not. I mean, you can't leave anything if you don't go someplace, right? Can't believe anything. Wait a minute. I think Maya's onto something here. The lack of a certain something actually proves that Soren didn't go to the hold.
What's the matter? Are you stumped already?
No, I'm far from stumped, Mr. Edgeworth. I know for a fact that Mr. Sprocket didn't go to the hold.
You and your paper-thin bluffs. Mr. Sprocket's bloodstain on the lift proves he went through the hold. So what possible proof could you have that he did not in fact go there?
You want proof? You got it. You can do this, Phoenix. There's got to be proof that Soren didn't go through the hold.
Well, Mr. Wright.
This proves that Mr. Sprocket didn't go through the hold. A photo of the hold. Oh! Whoa! Gloomsbury, Persnickety, and Ellen. Bam! As anyone can see from the hold entry record, there's absolutely no mention of Soren Sprocket entering the hold. The defense asserts that Mr. Sprocket used a different route to get to the Vista deck.
You can assert all you want, Mr. Wright, but can you actually prove another route exists?
Can I prove the existence of another route to the Vista deck, you ask? No. Yes. Why did I think there were doors there? I don't know. I have nothing. I have, like, literal nothing. Do I say no? I've always wondered if you get, like, this question, if I get this wrong, what does it do? It doesn't look like it's going to hurt me one way or the other. Well, now that I really think about it, I guess it's going to be hard to prove, but I can't back down now. The trial will be over if I do. There's only one thing I can do at a time like this. I can prove it. All right, I did wrong. Even if it's just a bluff, I have to present something. Anything that could prove the existence of a faster route to the Vista deck. All right. Good to know that I guess those don't really matter.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. Show us how Mr. Sprocket got to the Vista deck.
What? Mr. Sprocket made for the Vista deck through here. What? Wait, isn't this the door that would suck you out of the ship and send you to your death? But it's all I've got. I guess I did have something. I didn't realize that. All right. To save his bride from danger, Mr. Sprocket opened the escape hatch and made his way along the outside of the wall to the Vista deck. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
There would certainly be a much faster route to the Vista deck.
Objection.
I'm disappointed, Mr. Wright. Is that really the best you could muster? That escape hatch is not meant to be used to get from the reception hall to the Vista deck.
I understand that.
One slip in that's all it would take for Mr. Sprocket to plunge to his death. I have to agree, the defense's claim is really stretching it.
Hold it.
You know, I understand how it sounds, Your Honor. But at this point, it's too early to definitively say that he didn't go that way.
So that's what you're going with then, I take it?
Of course, Your Honor. You know...
This is real life, Mr. Wright, not some cinematic driveler comic book. Do you have some sort of logical explanation to share that would convince us of your claim?
I do. Are you sure, Nick? Kind of? Actually, I have nothing. So I'll just have to wing it somehow.
And what do you base your theory that Mr. Sprocket made his way along the outside?
My theory that he was able to go along the outside wall despite the danger is based on the power of authority, the power of money, power of love. We'll go with that. Even though he's refuted that basically with his testimony, which is unfortunate. Is love really going to hold up in court? And the other two don't make any sense whatsoever. To save the bride he loves, the groom risks his life and rushed to her side. Mr. Sprocket was able to make it to the Vista deck despite the danger. Because of the power of love. No. Oh, we said it out loud, and I'm like, I regret my decision.
The power of love. Love is a source of strength that can help one overcome any obstacle. I think I can relate things to my own long, happy marriage.
Wow, he actually seems to be buying it.
Objection.
Dang. Yeah, look who's across from you.
The power of love, you say? That kind of illogical argument is hardly viable in a court of law.
He's not wrong.
Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? I'm afraid not, Mr. Edgeworth. You should never underestimate the power of love. You'll understand one day when you get married. Which I won't.
Wow.
Exactly what is so wrong with wishing to remain unwed?
Way to set him off, Your Honor.
Never mind all this unscientific nonsense. Are you aware, Mr. Wright, that at the time of the crime, there was a huge propeller turning at full speed between the hatch and the Vista deck? Even if a person were to go outside through the hatch,
He got between the blades.
they'd be blown away in an instant. Where does your power of love get you now, Mr. Wright? A huge spinning propeller, you say? In that case, I have to admit it does seem impossible.
Ugh, I should have known. Nick, you can't make that kind of face in front of your client. The worst of times are when lawyers have to force their biggest smiles, right? Right. I feel like I just saw Mia looking out at me through Maya's eyes. What's wrong, Nick? Why are you gaping at me like a giant sunfish? Thank you, Maya. You just helped me remember something really important. There it is. There's the fearless smile I was looking for. Now give us a mind-blowing theory just like you always do. I have to turn my thinking around. Right. Instead of wondering how Soren could have moved past that huge propeller, I have to think about what would have made it possible for him to do so. Oh. Was the propeller not moving? No, it doesn't make any sense. Dang. I was like, maybe the ship was still on the ground, but then I feel like Ellen would have noticed that, like, as she was being, like, backed up.
Your Honor, Mr. Wright only makes that ridiculous face when his back is pressed against the wall. Therefore, please do hurry and give your ruling before.
Got him. Mr. Edgeworth, it's still far too early to discount my theory.
What are you talking about? The airship's large spinning propellers have already shredded it to pieces.
Nope. But if we think a little more outside the box, I'm sure we could find a way he could have made it.
Stop trying to stall, Mr. Wright, and show us how it could have been possible, even remotely possible, if at all. I must agree with Mr. Edgeworth.
Very well, Your Honor. There must have been a way. Some way that Soren could have moved along the wall in spite of the propellers.
Now then, Mr. Wright, what specifically would have made it possible?
This is how it would have been possible for Mr. Sprocket to get to the Vista deck. He got to the deck some other way. Propeller. The airship wasn't flying. But there's so many issues with that. I guess the other thing is, what could have made it seem... What could have made it seem to everyone like they were flying? I mean, they've already established they're not above like, elaborate hoaxes. So I could see the guests going along with the ship not moving, but how would Ellen not notice? Or Larry, for that matter. I don't know, though. What allowed Mr. Sprocket to go along the outside wall in spite of the propellers is that the location of the flying chapel at the time of the crime. The location of the flying chapel, but wasn't it flying high in the sky? No, Your Honor, I'm afraid it wasn't. What? Then where was it? At the time of the murder, the airship wasn't flying through the sky, but moored to the ground. What? And if the airship wasn't flying, then that means the propellers weren't turning. That makes sense. Ooh. Oh, okay, we got him. In which case, Mr. Sprocket could have gotten to the Vista deck along the outside wall. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket? It's the only thing that makes sense. I don't remember. Ow, he stabbed himself with this pencil. That's gonna leave a mark.
Even if the propellers weren't turning, it would have been far too risky to go that way.
Ah, but Mr. Edgeworth, you're forgetting about the power of love. Yes, the amazing power of love.
Not this again. Very well, for the sake of argument, let's assume this so-called power of love made it possible for Mr. Sprocket to move along the outside wall of the airship. Can you prove the airship was tied to the ground as you claim, Mr. Wright?
Well, I don't have any evidence that proves where the airship was at the time.
You can prove it, can't you?
Wait. Oh, I think I can, actually. Maya, can you think of anything we can use to prove it? I can't say I can. Oh, wait. Didn't somebody see something outside a window at the time of the crime? I think I remember someone saying as much. Do I have a piece of evidence that shows that what was outside the airship? Yes!
Well, what are you waiting for?
This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the crime. Ooh. Alright, too excited. Bam! This piece of evidence shows what was outside of the airship at the time of the murder.
What kind of lousy drawing is that?
It's a drawing made by Larry Butts.
What can you prove with that poor attempt at artistry?
Poor Larry. Larry made this drawing before he switched the lanterns, so it must have been right around when the murder was being committed. Now, if I could direct the court's attention to here... Yeah. Oh, I don't even have to do it. Is that a pterodactyl? Does this mean that the airship actually went back in time to the Cretaceous period?
We've already proven that time travel is nothing more than a gimmick, did we not?
We did, and I have no intention of bringing up that argument again, yet. But this drawing shows us an important piece of information. It shows us that the airship was actually moored on the ground.
What makes you so sure?
That's easy. All you have to do is consider who made this drawing.
Larry.
That's right. It was Mr. Butts, and we both know what he's like. He must have seen something else and mistaken it for a pterodactyl.
I can't argue with you there.
Hey, just wait. Just one doggone second here. What kind of moron do you guys take me for? I saw it with my own eyes. Pterodactyl flew right by the window, I tell you. I have the sharp eye of an artist. Don't you believe me?
No.
Nick. Nope. Some friends you guys are. What about the judge? You believe him, right, Your Honor? I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you need to leave this courtroom. Bailiff, if you would. Come on, buddy. Let's go. Why does the name of believe me? Fantastic. Don't take it personally, Larry. I know you're just being, well, you. Now then, so you were saying that what Mr. Butts really saw bears some relation to what was outside of the airship at the time of the murder? Yes, Your Honor. At least I think it does. What this pterodactyl really is will prove the airship was anchored at the mooring dock. It better anyway. If it doesn't, my whole argument is a bust.
if you're that confident about it, then please go ahead and tell us what it really was.
Yes, Your Honor. Think, Phoenix. What could that pterodactyl actually have been? Oh my god. Since, like, I saw the drawing, I've been after this. Please take a good look at this sign.
The sign? It appears to have been broken and then repaired. But what does this sign have to do with the pterodactyl?
Please focus on the parts of on this part of the sign.
The part that broke off and got reattached.
How about if we turn it like this?
Oh, that shape. It's the pterodactyl in the drawing.
What Mr. Butts actually saw was this chunk as it was being blown through the air by wind.
What?
On the day of the murder, there were some heavy winds in the area of the mooring dock. That's why that's very lucky. So that's why Ellen may not have noticed that they weren't moving. Maybe? But it's hard to imagine that the sign would make it up as high as an airship would fly. That means the flying chapel must have been anchored at the mooring dock that night. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
Objection!
What are you going to fight me on this?
That's more than enough of this pillar of love nonsense, you pop culture junkie. Present all the proof you want, but your argument is based on far too much conjecture. Why don't we turn to reality now?
Well, I mean, we have the log that shows he didn't go through the hold, so what do you got? What do you mean too much conjecture?
Even if the airship wasn't flying, that alone doesn't prove the witness went along the wall.
It's true.
True, even now, it's no more than a possibility.
Then how do you propose Mr. Sprocket got to the Vista deck, Mr. Edgeworth?
I noticed something as I went over the evidence. Please take a look at this hold entry record.
What about it? I don't see Mr. Sprocket listed on here anywhere.
Don't you remember, in yesterday's session we had a very similar kind of argument.
Did we?
Honestly, Mr. Ryder, you're going senile already. We talked about Larry Butts using the defendant's key card to enter the hold.
We did talk about that, didn't we?
In other words, even if a person's name isn't on the entry record, it's still possible for that person to have entered by using someone else's card. Mr. Sprocket, you entered the hold with Mr. Nickety, didn't you?
I did. What? Why didn't you tell us that in the first place? Pierce is indispensable. I didn't want to mention him unnecessarily and risk having him wrongly accused. Couldn't do without him.
Mr. Sprocket, I ask that you testify in greater detail about your movements that night.